Are you a podcaster? Maybe you've got that big idea and you're looking for a network to join. The multi-award-winning Ozcast Network can get your content to eyes and ears all over the world. Join now for the first month free, and you could be featuring this sound at the beginning of your podcast.
Ozcast.
Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.
Ozcast.
Get this, Tether, cryptocurrency, it's now one of the biggest holders of U.S. debt.
Wow.
Almost as much as, Saudi Arabia.
Seriously?
Yeah. So how did we get here?
Right.
That's what we're diving into today.
I'm ready.
Yeah, the wild ride of Tether from its early days, as this kind of financial rebel to its potential role, I guess, in keeping the U.S. dollar on top, right?
Yeah.
It's a crazy story with twists and turns you won't believe.
It really shows how, the lines between the old financial world and the new world of crypto are blurring in ways nobody expected.
Exactly. So to kick things off, let's rewind a bit, okay? Tether wasn't always so welcomed, with open arms, was it?
Not at all. Just a few years ago, banks were dropping them like a hot potato.
Really?
Regulators were all over them. And there were some serious questions about their financial practices.
Mm-hmm.
They were seen as a real threat, a disruptor, you know, to the established order.
Wow. So what changed? Was it just the changing political landscape that brought them in from the cold?
Well, the shift in the U.S. political landscape, it definitely played a part.
Yeah.
The perception of hostility from the Biden administration toward the crypto world, it pushed Tether to kind of search for friendlier shores.
Yeah.
And they found them, surprisingly, under the Trump administration, the appointment of Howard Lutnick, Tether's banker at Cantor Fitzgerald, as the Secretary of Commerce. That was a real turning point.
That's a huge development, right? It was the rebel suddenly joined the inner circle.
Exactly.
What was it about Lutnick that made him such a strong supporter of Tether even before his appointment?
Well, Lutnick has always been very vocal about, his belief in the potential of cryptocurrency, particularly stablecoins like Tether. Yeah. He sees them as a key part of the future of finance, a way to kind of make the whole global financial system more efficient and more accessible.
Right.
And this belief, it translated into concrete actions. Cantor Fitzgerald, under Lutnick's leadership, they provided Tether with essential banking services, including custody for their reserves.
Wow.
And they even facilitated their purchase of U.S. Treasury bonds.
So he really put his money where his mouth was.
Yeah, absolutely.
So to speak. But how does this tie into Tether ending up with such a massive chunk of U.S. debt?
Right. That's where the mechanics of how Tether actually works come into play.
Okay.
Tether is what's called a stable coin, meaning its value is pegged to the U.S. dollar.
Right.
To maintain that stability, Tether backs its tokens with U.S. dollar assets. And a huge portion of those assets are held in U.S. Treasury bonds.
So by buying all these Treasury bonds, they're essentially lending money to the U.S. government.
Yeah.
And in turn becoming a major holder of U.S. debt.
Yeah.
It's also it's almost ironic, isn't it? This cryptocurrency that was initially viewed as a threat to the financial establishment is now kind of propping it up.
It's a fascinating paradox, yeah.
Yeah.
And it raises some big questions about the future of the U.S. dollar.
Right.
And the role that cryptocurrency might play in supporting it, especially in a world where the U.S.'s economic dominance is being challenged.
Okay, let's dive deeper into that Lutnick connection.
Okay.
His confirmation hearing must have been pretty interesting, given his close ties to Tether. Was there any pushback?
Oh yeah.
From lawmakers about this relationship?
There was definitely some scrutiny.
Yeah.
Senator Cantwell, in particular, she raised concerns about Tether's transparency,
right,
and the potential for their platform to be used for illicit activities. She pressed Lutnick about the need for like stricter audits to ensure that Tether's reserves, truly back their tokens one-to-one.
That's a valid concern, especially given some of the past accusations against Tether.
Yeah.
What was Lutnick's response to these concerns? Did he try to like downplay his relationship with Tether?
Not at all.
Really?
No, he was very upfront about his belief in Tether.
Okay.
And the need for, clear, consistent regulations for stable coins. He argued that, that all stable coins, especially those backed by the U.S. dollar, should be subject to rigorous audits and backed by U.S. treasuries. He even went a step further. He said that that transparency, in these regulations is crucial for protecting investors.
So he was essentially advocating for a more formalized and regulated environment for Tether and other stablecoins.
Right.
Did he address the concerns about, illicit activities? After all, that's a major criticism often leveled at cryptocurrencies in general.
He did. And his response was, it was quite interesting.
Yeah.
He pushed back against the idea that Tether is like inherently, a tool for criminals.
Yeah.
He compared it to blaming like Apple,
Right.
because criminals use iPhones.
Right.
He argued that any tool can be used for good or for bad, and that Tether is actively working with law enforcement to combat illicit activities.
So he acknowledged the potential for like misuse, but emphasized Tether's commitment to working with the good guys.
Exactly.
This leads us to another like key part of our deep dive today.
Okay.
Tether's claims about their cooperation with law enforcement agencies, worldwide.
Right.
They've made some pretty bold statements about this, haven't they?
They have. They claim to have a strong working relationship with like over 200 law enforcement agencies across 50 countries.
Okay.
They argue that their ability to track transactions in real time and freeze assets makes them a valuable partner in fighting financial crime.
That's a stark contrast to like the traditional banking system, which is often criticized for being, so slow and opaque when it comes to like sharing information with law enforcement. Do we have any like concrete examples of this cooperation in action?
There are a few cases that highlight, Tether's involvement in fighting financial crime. One that stands out is the, quote, pig butchering, quote, scam.
What do you have?
This involved criminals manipulating victims into, investing in fraudulent cryptocurrency schemes, often after like building these fake online relationships with them.
That's awful.
Yeah.
What role did Tether play in this case?
Well, Tether worked closely with authorities to kind of like trace the flow of funds through the Tether network by tracking transactions and freezing assets. They were instrumental in identifying the perpetrators and recovering over $8 million for the victims.
Wow, that's significant.
Yeah,
it does seem like they're really putting their money where their mouth is when it comes to combating, criminal activity. It's a side of Tether we don't often hear about.
That's right. And their CEO, Paolo Ardoino, he's been very vocal about their zero tolerance policy towards criminal activity. Yeah. He even said that using Tether for criminal activities is, quote, very stupid, quote, because of their ability to track and freeze transactions. It seems like they're really trying to change the perception of Tether being this haven for illicit activities, and position themselves as a responsible player in the financial world.
It's a strategic move for sure, but it's still a bit of a head scratcher, isn't it? This company that was once seen as a disruptor, a threat to the establishment, is now kind of like cozying up to the government and working, hand in hand with law enforcement. What's driving this shift? Is it purely pragmatism? A survival tactic in a world that's becoming increasingly regulated?
Right.
Or is there something more to it?
That's a great question, and one that leads us deeper into the story of Tether.
Okay.
To understand, their motivations, we need to look beyond the company itself and delve into, the vision and beliefs of the people behind it.
Right.
And that's where we'll pick things up in part 2 of this deep dive. It's fascinating, how Tether's navigating this whole new world. It's like they're not just reacting to the changing landscape,
right,
but like actually trying to shape it.
Yeah.
A big part of that is, how they're handling this whole regulatory puzzle, right? Especially in the EU.
Yeah, we touched on those regulatory hurdles earlier,
right?
Particularly with the EU's MiCA regulations.
Yeah.
It seems like those rules have caused some friction, haven't they?
Oh yeah,
for Tether.
Definitely.
Can you break down exactly what those regulations are and why they're causing Tether so much trouble?
Sure. So the EU's MiCA, short for markets in crypto assets,
okay,
is essentially their attempt to create a uniform set of rules, for all crypto assets across the entire EU.
Right.
It covers, everything from investor protection and anti-money-laundering measures to very specific requirements for stablecoins like Tether.
Okay.
And some of those requirements have been sticking points, for Tether.
Like what specifically? What are they struggling with?
Well, one of the biggest challenges is the transparency and reserve requirements for stablecoins.
Okay.
MiCA sets, very high standards for the assets backing stablecoins,
yeah,
and requires very frequent audits,
right,
to ensure that those reserves are really rock solid.
yeah.
And this level of scrutiny, it can be difficult for a company like Tether, which has a more complex operational model,
right,
than some other stablecoin issuers.
So it's not necessarily that Tether is unwilling to comply.
Sure.
It's more that these regulations might clash with how they operate.
Exactly. Tether maintains, that they're all for transparency and have even taken steps to improve their reporting,
Yeah.
But some of MiCA's, specific demands, like the exact makeup of their reserves and how often they're audited, it could be tricky for them to meet without overhauling their whole system.
Right. And this is where Arduino's comparison to DeepSeek comes in, right?
Yeah.
He's worried that, overregulation could stifle innovation and cause the U.S. to fall behind.
Right.
In the whole crypto race. Can you unpack that analogy a bit more for us?
Sure. So DeepSeek was this AI company, right?
Yeah.
That seemingly just exploded out of nowhere.
Okay.
And disrupted the entire AI industry with its advanced tech and crazy low prices. Arduino's point is that the same thing could happen in finance if the U.S. gets too bogged down in regulations. They might miss out on nurturing the next big thing in fintech.
It's like trying to fit a square peg in a round hole.
Right.
Trying to apply old regulatory frameworks to this brand new technology.
Precisely. It's a tough balancing act for regulators.
Yeah.
They need to protect investors.
Right.
And ensure stability,
Yeah.
without accidentally killing off innovation,
right,
and scaring away, potential game changers.
Yeah.
Like Tether.
It's no easy feat.
No, it's not.
And this is where the new administration's stance on crypto becomes so crucial, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Arduino seems hopeful that things will be more, crypto friendly by September.
Right.
What are the chances of that actually happening?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It
Yeah.
really depends on how the new administration, balances the need for regulation with the desire to foster innovation. There's
Right.
a lot of pressure from both sides. It'll be interesting to see where they land.
So we've got Tether, this former disruptor, now pushing for a more favorable regulatory environment.
Right.
In the U.S., it's almost like they're trying to become part of the establishment that they once challenged.
Yeah.
Could their massive holdings of U.S. debt give them more like leverage in these regulatory discussions.
That's a fascinating thought.
Are you a podcaster? Maybe you've got that big idea and you're looking for a network to join. The multi-award-winning Ozcast Network can get your content to eyes and ears all over the world. Join now for the first month free, and you could be featuring this sound at the beginning of your podcast. Ozcast. Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.
It's certainly possible that, their financial stake in the U.S. economy,
right,
could give them more clout in policy decisions.
Right.
It adds another layer of complexity to this whole saga.
It's like this unexpected plot twist.
Yeah.
The crypto company potentially helping to shape the future of the U.S. dollar.
It really is.
I mean, who would have predicted that, a few years ago?
Nobody. It really highlights the unpredictable nature of the crypto world.
Yeah.
And it it underscores the fact that we're still in the early stages of this technological revolution.
Right.
The story of how, crypto and traditional finance will interact, it's still being written.
Okay, so we've covered the regulatory maze.
Right.
The power dynamics, but let's not forget about the other elephant in the room.
Yeah.
The whole issue of criminal activity and Tether's claims about cooperating with law enforcement. We talked about the quote pig butchering quote scam earlier.
Right.
But are there any other examples of them actually putting their money where their mouth is on this?
Absolutely. Tether's has been involved in several cases where they've, actively assisted law enforcement in tracking down criminals and recovering stolen funds. One notable example involves a group of hackers who stole millions of dollars worth of cryptocurrency from a major exchange.
Oh, wow. Okay, so what happened? Did Tether just hand over the stolen funds to the authorities?
Well, it's not quite that simple. Remember, Tether operates on a blockchain, right?
Yeah.
Which means that transactions are transparent and traceable. What they did was use their technology to kind of follow the trail of the stolen funds.
Okay.
Identifying the wallets where they were being held and providing that information to law enforcement.
So they acted like digital detectives, following the breadcrumbs on the blockchain.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
And this information, it proved critical in helping authorities, track down the hackers and eventually recover a significant portion of the stolen funds.
It sounds like they're taking this responsibility seriously, not just, paying lip service to combating crime.
Yeah, it seems that way. They've actually established a dedicated team, that works exclusively with law enforcement agencies around the world.
Okay.
Providing technical assistance and sharing information to help investigate,
Yeah.
financial crimes.
So they've gone from being viewed with suspicion by some regulators to being seen as a valuable partner in fighting crime. That's quite a turnaround.
It is. And it speaks to the changing perception of cryptocurrency.
Yeah.
While there are still concerns about, its potential for misuse, there's also a growing recognition that it can be a powerful tool for law enforcement, especially in the digital age.
It's like they're trying to change the narrative to show that crypto can be a force for good, a tool for justice.
Yeah.
Not just, a haven for criminals.
Exactly. They're essentially saying, quote, we're not just about disrupting the financial system. We're also about making it safer and more secure, for everyone.
It's a bold strategy for sure, but it's still a far cry from the early days of crypto when, anonymity and decentralization were the guiding principles. This move towards transparency and collaboration, with authorities. It seems almost like counterintuitive to the original spirit of cryptocurrency.
You're right. It's a fascinating evolution, and it speaks to the challenges of trying to integrate this revolutionary technology into the existing systems of power and governance.
It raises a lot of questions about the future of crypto, right? Will it will it ultimately be absorbed into the mainstream financial system?
Right.
Becoming just another like tool for the establishment.
Right.
Or will it manage to maintain its its rebellious spirit?
Yeah.
Its promise of decentralization and individual empowerment.
Those are big questions, and the answers are far from clear. But to understand, where this is all heading, I think we need to go beyond the technology itself and look at the human side of this story. Who are the people driving these changes? What are their motivations?
Right.
What is their vision? For the future of cryptocurrency.
That's where we need to go next, right? To understand the true impact of this technology, we need to understand the people behind it.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we've spent the last 2 parts of this deep dive exploring this whole complex world of Tether, the regulations, the power plays, the fight against financial crime. But now let's shift gears a little bit.
Okay.
Let's put a face to this crypto behemoth.
Yeah.
Who are the people behind the curtain, pulling the levers and steering the ship, right?
Yeah, it's easy to get lost in the tech jargon and the market trends, but ultimately it's the human element, right, that drives this whole industry forward.
Right.
To understand Tether's trajectory, we need to understand the people at the helm, their motivations, their values, their vision for the future.
Exactly. So let's start with the captain of the ship, right? Paolo Ardoino.
Right.
Tether's CEO. What's his story? What makes him tick?
Ardoino he's a fascinating character.
Yeah.
He doesn't fit the mold of your typical Wall Street executive.
Right.
He comes from like a tech background,
Right.
a world of open source software and decentralized systems. He sees cryptocurrency not just as a financial tool, but as a way to kind of like disrupt the status quo, to empower individuals and challenge the traditional institutions that hold so much power.
That definitely aligns with the early image of crypto as this rebellious force,
right?
This way to break free from the constraints of the traditional financial system.
Exactly. And Ardoino has been a very vocal champion of this vision. He's been incredibly passionate, about Tether, arguing that it provides a stable and accessible entry point for for people in developing countries to participate in the global economy.
Yeah.
He sees it as a way to level the playing field. To give people in countries with unstable currencies a safe haven, for their savings.
Yeah. So it's more than just like profit for him, right? There's a real ideological drive, behind his work.
Absolutely. He genuinely believes in the transformative power of cryptocurrency. He sees it as a tool for financial inclusion, a way to kind of like democratize finance, and give individuals more control over their own money.
But it hasn't always been easy, has it?
No.
I mean, Tether has faced its fair share of controversies, accusations of shady dealings, regulatory hurdles.
Right.
How has Ardoino navigated these storms? What kind of leader is he?
Well, he's had to be, adaptable, resilient, willing to, to change tactics as the landscape shifts.
Right.
He's gone from being seen as, as an outsider, a rebel shaking things up to someone who's now trying to like build bridges,
Right.
and work within the system. He's realized that to achieve his vision, he needs to engage with regulators, build trust with institutions, and play the game to a certain extent.
It's like he's had to grow alongside the cryptocurrency industry itself.
Right.
From those early days of disruption and defiance to this current phase of seeking mainstream acceptance and integration.
That's a great observation. And this evolution is reflected in Tether's journey as a company. They've gone from being shrouded in secrecy to embracing, transparency,
Right.
publishing quarterly reports and actively cooperating with authorities. Ardoino has been, a key driver of this shift.
It sounds like he's learned to play the long game, to balance his idealism with a healthy dose of pragmatism. But let's not forget about the other power player in this story, right? Howard Lutnick, Tether's banker at Cantor Fitzgerald, who later became Secretary of Commerce under Trump.
Right.
We've discussed his close ties to Tether, but what's his motivation? What's his vision for the future of cryptocurrency?
Lutnick is an interesting case.
Yeah.
Because he represents, the bridge between traditional finance and this new world of crypto. He's a Wall Street veteran, a master of the old system.
Right.
But he's also, a believer in the transformative potential of blockchain technology.
Yeah.
He sees cryptocurrency not as a threat, but as an opportunity.
Okay.
A chance to create a more efficient and inclusive financial system.
So he's not just in it for the quick buck.
Right.
He genuinely sees cryptocurrency as a game changer.
Exactly. And his actions, speak louder than words. Cantor Fitzgerald, under his leadership, went all in on Tether.
Wow.
Providing them with banking services, custody for their reserves, even facilitating their purchase of U.S. Treasury bonds.
Yeah.
I mean, he put his money where his mouth was, so to speak.
Right. And then, of course, he becomes, Secretary of Commerce.
Right.
Putting him in a position to potentially influence crypto policy from within the government, right?
Yeah.
Did that raise any concerns about, conflicts of interest?
Absolutely. There were definitely eyebrows raised about his close ties to Tether.
Yeah.
Some worried that he might, use his position to favor the crypto industry,
right,
potentially at the expense of other sectors or the broader, financial system.
It's a tricky situation, no doubt.
Yeah.
But it also highlights the growing influence of cryptocurrency, right?
Yep.
The fact that it's no longer just a fringe movement,
right,
but a force to be reckoned with.
Mm-hmm.
Even in the halls of government.
Absolutely.
That's a key takeaway, I think, from this whole deep dive.
Yeah.
Cryptocurrency is no longer just about, tech geeks and libertarian ideals, right?
Right.
It's becoming deeply intertwined with the existing systems of power, the global economy, the future of finance itself.
And as we've seen with Tether, it's a story that's full of contradictions,
right,
unexpected alliances, and a constant push and pull between disruption and integration. It's a story that's still being written, and the ending is far from certain.
Exactly. We've explored the regulations, the power dynamics, the fight against crime.
Right.
But ultimately, it's the human element that will determine the future of this technology. The choices that people like Arduino and Lutnick make, the values they prioritize, the vision they pursue, those are the factors that will shape the impact of cryptocurrency, on the world.
So as you continue your own exploration of the crypto world, remember that behind the code, behind the algorithms, behind the market fluctuations, there are people driving these changes, people with motivations, dreams, and a desire to shape the future.
Understanding their stories, their perspectives, their goals, that's crucial to understanding the true potential and the potential pitfalls of this transformative technology.
And that's what we've aimed to do in this deep dive, to go beyond the headlines, to delve into the complexities, the nuances, the human stories behind this fascinating and rapidly evolving world.
So keep exploring, keep questioning, keep diving deep.
Yeah.
The world of cryptocurrency is full of surprises. And the journey of discovery is just beginning.
It is.
And on that note, we'll wrap up this deep dive. Until next time, stay curious.
Are you a podcaster? Maybe you've got that big idea and you're looking for a network to join. The multi-award-winning Ozcast Network can get your content to eyes and ears all over the world. Join now for the first month free, and you could be featuring this sound at the beginning of your podcast.
Ozcast.
Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.